Welcome. My name's Rick Naples and I'm a realtor. Well, it's a new year. We're starting off with great outlooks for what's going to be coming up as far as the real estate market is concerned in 2017. There's a lot of stuff out there as to whether or not 2017 is going to be the year of the seller or the year of the buyer. We'll talk about that, and we'll also talk about some of the other processes that are involved in the real estate transaction. It's the Real Estate Show. The new year is upon us, and this is a time of reflection. You know, we take a look at the past year, and then we look forward to what will be coming up in the new year. As individuals, we make our resolutions. We all make them, and then we try to keep them. I wonder how many of you at the time you're looking at this show have kept on track with the resolutions you've made, or if you've already broken them. I'll admit, I make the same resolutions every single year, and I don't make it through the whole year. I usually end up breaking them in one way, shape, or form. But each year is a new slate. It brings on new challenges, new opportunities, new ways of doing things. And it's the same with the real estate business. You know, as a realtor, we take a look at what we did in 2016, the changes, the challenges that we had in trying to find people homes and getting homes sold. And we kind of learn from those experiences and set forth the plan for 2017. Now, there's a lot of information that's out there, folks, talking about what the new year is going to bring in real estate. We just came out of a presidential election. We have a new president now. He happens to have a background in real estate. Whether that's going to work for the real estate market or not, we don't know. There are new appointees to different types of cabinet positions, a new head of HUD, a new head of the Small Business Administration. So there's going to be some shakeups and some new things coming along. And in the real estate industry, we've actually started to address some of the issues that came up over the last couple of years. I've talked before on the Real Estate Show about the issue of crumbling concrete foundations and some of the changes that are being made as far as that's concerned. And I've also talked about the legislative issues that have come up in real estate and some of the changes in new laws that have been put into effect to try to protect home ownership. It's going to be a very interesting year. But a lot of folks make the resolution, you might say, that 2017 might be their year to step into the housing market, to go from the tenancy status, a renter, to an actual home owner. And there's always that hesitation or that question as, is this the right year to do it? And on the flip side, you have the situation where you have a seller out there, and the seller has to decide, is 2017 enough of a recovery period year where I can put my home on the market and at least make back what I bought for it? So those are the kinds of things we're going to look at. And as we go forward throughout 2017 and the statistics and the actual numbers come in, I'll share that information with you on the Real Estate Show. Let's sit back and look at this quick little presentation, and I'll be back to talk more about the year going ahead. Do you have any regrets, any second thoughts about things that you may have done or participated in the past year? Have you ever signed or gotten into an agreement and thought to yourself, I should have taken more time to understand what that agreement was and what my commitment and liabilities was going to be? Well, one of the resolutions that I recommend to anyone that's getting into the housing market in the new year is take the time to read contracts. Now, you don't have to sit there and read it word for word, page to page, but make sure you understand before you sign any kind of an agreement what it is you're signing and why you're signing it. We've had issues in the past where people see a home on the internet, they call up the listing agent or they call up the realtor that they're working with, and they want to go out and take a look at a house, and that's all fine and great. But the realtor says to them, are you pre-qualified for a mortgage? And I need you to sign what's called a buyer representation agreement. And there's usually a little bit of concern or pushback as far as that's concerned. You see, as consumers, we don't like to enter into any kind of contractual agreement or commitment unless we're ready to go that next step. So a lot of consumers out there will feel that, geez, if I'm just going out and I'm looking at houses, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm ready to buy that house. I want to look around and I don't want to make a commitment. Well, again, if you spend time to sit down with a realtor and discuss pre-qualification, mortgage pre-qualification, and what a buyer representation agreement is, you'll have a better understanding as to why the realtor wants to have those things in place when you're going out to look. They're protections. It's also great to know when you're getting into the housing market what you're getting into. And if you're working with a realtor, what it is they do and what it is you need to do in order to make the process run smoothly. You know, it's nice to sit here comfortably at my desk and be surrounded with a few of the decorations that are left over from the holidays, and to be able to sit and reflect on what went on this past year as far as my own personal real estate business was concerned, and also just the things that I've been involved with over the year and where they've gone. It's also a time for me to think of some of the experiences that I've had in real estate over the year. And you know that I've added to the real estate show a section of the show that I call Story Time with Rick Naples. And I tell stories about some of the situations I found myself in while being a realtor and going through the real estate transaction. And I thought I would informally just discuss one particular story that came up, or one thing that had happened early in my career, and I call this one the closing disaster. There's a little bit of apprehension that you have when you're going through the process of buying a home. And once you've gotten through a contract being accepted, home inspections, appraisal issues, getting the mortgage in place, and all those different things, you then go to the closing table. Now, there's been disclosures put into effect, and we've talked about those before on the real estate show. So you know exactly as far as what you're walking into when you go to the closing, as far as the dollars that are concerned, what you need for your closing costs, taxes, and so on and so forth. But there's always the chance that there's an unknown thing that pops up that nobody was aware of. This story was a situation where I was in the process of working with another realtor, and we were selling a multi-family home. This unit had 4 apartments in it. One was on the first floor, and then there were 3 small studio / 1-bedroom apartments on the second floor. The way the income was set up on this particular multifamily was most of the income was coming in from the first floor renter. And when the buyer did their analysis as far as money coming in for rents against the expenses of running the building, they found that it was heavily based on that first floor being rented. Now, I tell you that story and I tell you those reasons because it really has a big effect as to what happened at closing. My party shows up. I was representing the buyer investor. We show up to the closing. We're sitting in the closing room where the listing agent all of a sudden asks me to step out of the room because they have something they want to share with me. All right, well, you don't know at that point. You're kind of just keeping yourself open as to whatever comes across, you'll handle it. But basically what I was told is, unbeknownst to the listing agent, the owner of the property was in the process of an eviction, trying to get the first floor tenant evicted because that first floor tenant had not paid rent in like 6 months. Second floor tenants, though, they were fine, but the first floor was a big issue. And if we went through with the closing, the buyer would be taking on the process of evicting that first floor tenant. Well, of course, the buyer was basing all their numbers on that first floor rent. And without that first floor rent, it just didn't seem feasible to go through with purchasing the home. Even though the attorneys came up with solving the problem by saying, we'll close on the property and we will escrow 12 months, a full year worth of rental collections to make sure that you have the income coming in while that tenant on the first floor is being evicted. Unfortunately, what happened is finding this out at the closing table was a little bit of a shock. The buyers were the first-time buyers of a multi-investment home. They just didn't know what to expect. They were afraid of the risk. So right there at the closing table, after everything had been done and all the money had been spent and all the time had been invested in getting the transaction together, the buyers walked away from the table and the deal fell apart. It happens. Moral of the story, communication, communication, communication. You need to know what is going on to try to eliminate or at least reduce the surprises when you get to the closing table. We're talking about here on the Real Estate Show about the coming year and some of the things that we may see in 2017 as far as the housing market is concerned. And I was reading a very interesting article where some of the economic gurus were saying that the housing market is recovering, and it will recover a little bit stronger in 2017 compared to previous years. But it's not recovering as fast as what was predicted when they were looking at the numbers and projections a couple of years ago for this coming year. Is it a safe bet to say that it's going to be a better housing market this year than last year? I'll go out on a limb and say it will be. Will it be a super strong year compared to last year? Well, the jury is still out. We're in a period of time where we're still in the cold winter months. At the time that I'm filming this show and it's airing, we're in early January. So we still have the spring market ahead of us by a couple of months. So we'll see how the inventories start to increase and how many more houses come on the market and how they start selling as we go into the new year. We don't know where interest rates are going to go. We have seen a pattern of interest rates going up slowly. There's the predictions that in this year the interest rates will go up higher. So the advice a lot of realtors have been giving buyers is now is the time to make your move if you're jumping into the housing market while the interest rates are still low. But we're not going to see any increases that are going to be catastrophic as far as interest rates are concerned. When you're looking at the 30-year mortgage, an interest point or an interest increase of a quarter of a point or an eighth of a point isn't going to make that huge of a difference. Where you need to be concerned is where the changes might be in 2017. Now, I've talked about here on the Real Estate Show some of the legislative issues that I've had the opportunity to hear about, and also through call to actions that realtors do, and also serving on some of the political committees. I hear about all these different things that come up. We will be facing this coming year one of the things that we as realtors have been fighting against, and that is the possibility of the reduction of or elimination of the mortgage interest deduction that you get on your taxes. And of course, right now, everybody out there is in the process of either putting together their taxes or just filing their taxes, and you know how important that mortgage interest deduction is. So it's a we'll see. We'll see what happens as we go through this year and into 2018. Let's sit back and look at this quick presentation. I'll be back with my comments on the real estate mailbag. This is the portion of the real estate show that I call the real estate mailbag. My opportunity to answer questions that are emailed here to the real estate show or even asked to me when I'm out and about. One of the questions that came in around Christmas time was, will the next year, this coming year, be the year for me to look at selling my home? I have to answer that honestly in saying that I've always said that the right time to enter the real estate market, whether you're selling or buying, is when it's right for you. You have to look at all the influences that are involved when it comes to putting your home on the market. Now, as a realtor, I tell a lot of my potential sellers, don't wait until the weather gets nice to put the home on the market. Put it on the market earlier, especially during the winter months, because there's less competition out there and you're going to have a bigger pool of buyers come take a look at your home. So you could possibly get a contract on your home that's acceptable and be moving as the weather gets warmer because you put it on earlier. For the buyers out there, I tell them don't wait. Unless there's a job change or there's a shift in family matrix or something like that, which causes you to wait until the earlier part of the year or later part of the year or end part of the year to get into the housing market, you want to keep your options open. It's always a great time to step into the housing market. My name is Rick Naples, and this has been The Real Estate Show. I thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.